Hello, welcome to today's SPS On Conversation. Our topic today is going to be how European retailers and suppliers are discovering the value of data analytics. We'll explore how that data can light the way to the insights that your buyers crave. And the best part is it doesn't even require a lot of time toggling between spreadsheets. Today, you'll hear from retail industry experts from Crocs and Clarks. They will share some useful tips on how their companies and teams are using their data. My name is Danny Schmitz, and I'm a trainer here at SPS Commerce, and I will be your host for today, making sure that all of your questions get answered and that we finish up on time. Now, you should be hearing me as we get started here. If you're not, click the little caret in the bottom left of your screen and test your audio settings. You guys are all on mute, and we are recording today's on conversation. So make sure that you are on your best behavior, for this will be recorded. Now, if you have any questions during the event at all, feel free to drop those in the Q&A icon right on the bottom, and we will be able to answer those at the end. We have a big Q&A portion there at the end. Now, I do encourage you to stay alert throughout this entire presentation, as we are doing a special drawing for some wireless headphones that look just like this with a pretty cool little SPS logo on there. Now, it is time to meet our panel. So first, we have Matt Carter, who is a customer planning manager at Clarks based in England. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Danny.
And then we have Megan Welch, who is the vice president of commercial and merchandise at Crocs based in Amsterdam. Welcome, Megan. And then we have Nicole Daly, a senior retail intelligence manager at SPS and a trusted advisor to many of our analytics customers. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, how are you, Danny?
And then we have Courtney D'Onofrio, an analytics expert from SPS with more than 10 years of working with retailers and suppliers across North America and Europe. She is based in Amsterdam. Great having you here, Courtney.
Hi, thanks, Danny. Nice to be here.
And we have Phil McDouall, also from SPS. Phil is the trusted advisor for our leading suppliers across the globe on data analytics. Phil is based in North America. Welcome, Phil.
Hi, Danny.
And to start us off, I'm actually going to hand it over to you, Phil, from SPS. Phil, take it away.
Perfect. Thanks, Danny. So it's my pleasure to have Megan from Crocs with me today. And Megan, I think a great place to start is just telling us a little bit about your role and how you started your journey with point of sale.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Phil. It's great to be here. Hi, Danny. Also, sorry, after months of being on video calls, I still couldn't get my mute off. So sorry for that. So I've been with Crocs for about 15 years, and I've held commercial merchandising and marketing roles around the world. So I've been back and forth around Americas, Asia, and EMEA. And I'm currently here in Amsterdam. So I cover our direct market wholesale. I cover our distributor markets, retail stores, and merchandising for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So it's super fun. But my journey with point of sale actually started, I don't know, more than a decade ago. Maybe less than 15 years, more than 10, when I was back in the US, and we started to really engage with SPS Commerce. And it was a huge unlock for us at Crocs to really start engaging in point of sale data. So we started back then in the US, and now we've come a long way now. I'm excited to be here for the Europe team using data in the same way.
Very cool. Well, so data is such a powerful tool, and it really seems like your team is recognizing the value of it and how it's impacting your business. Could you share a little bit about what prompted you to start implementing it within Crocs as a business in Europe, and also how that's been received?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I might start a little bit with how we did it in the US and then talk about Europe. So in the beginning in the US, when we started working with SPS, that data really gave us visibility that we didn't have around product performance. And so it was a massive unlock there. what we did in the US market then was really integrate that use of data through the organization. So using the data with buyers to really work on seasonal purchases on the sales side, as well as understanding out the door pricing, retailer margins, so that we could really strengthen our sales position. But then a little bit later in that journey, implemented it really fully the data through our planning organizations as well, and started using it for inventory planning and forecasting and things like that. So I had kind of seen all of that happen in the US. They were actively using data. But when I first came out to Europe in about 2010, I think it was, there was almost no data available in the European marketplace. It was certainly less transparent. Retailers were less willing to share data unless you were sat across the table having a meeting with them. So largely, some were obviously more transparent than others. But you know, that wasn't really an option for us to really dig into the data and use it in the same way. So a couple of years ago, when SPS started to expand more substantially in Europe, I was really, really eager to get our organization here on board. So we're working through implementation now, getting more retailers onto our visibility, and working through team trainings, and essentially trying to pull some of those same things that the US has been doing into our European business, because it's super valuable.
Very cool. And you kind of mentioned a lot about how the US team uses SPS Analytics as well. How would you say that experience really shaped your perspective on using data, how you're going to deploy it within Europe, and any future plans you had for it as well?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we were fortunate with the European organization to kind of start off from not the very beginning. So we had a lot of learnings that we could actually leverage, which is a huge advantage. So as we are getting up and running in Europe, and as we were bringing on the first retailers, it was really about leveraging as much as possible. So from the ways of working to the ways that the teams are integrated, to actually even using the dashboards that our US team has created. Maybe we'll make tweaks to those over time, but at least it's a really great starting point for us to get that running. So I think on the integration side, I mentioned we brought in our planning teams in a deeper way a little bit later in the US. I think we are unlocking that from the very beginning in the European marketplace, because we know how impactful that can be for forecasting, understanding market health, all of that. So we're working with the SPS team really on getting training through our organization. So not just analysts or the sales roles, but also through the planning organization.
No, that's great feedback. I mean, such a large part of deploying this is not only getting the data to your organization, it's helping them to know how to use it as well. So it's great to hear how you're thinking about that as well. So elephant in the room, 2020 has not been what anyone thought it would be. Obviously, many consumers have gone to wearing more comfortable shoes, and that has meant Crocs. So that's good for you guys. There's also been a major shift from folks shopping in store to online. How has this data helped you kind of manage some of those changes?
Yeah, great. Oh, absolutely. 2020 has not been what I was expecting as we left 2019. It's been crazy. We talk about that every day. If I hear unprecedented one more time, I'll go crazy.
That's nobody's word.
But I mean, I get to wear Crocs every day to work, so I'm so happy that the whole world has been able to very joyfully wear their Crocs from home, working all year. It's great for us. No, but I think, for sure at the beginning of the COVID closures, a lot of stores were closed for a period of time. So we did see a lot of momentum move to digital sales, which pushed, all of us to really evolve quickly to whatever this new normal was going to be. So the data was really helpful for us, especially at that point, to really manage where we were seeing shifts in sales, changes in timing that, were not the same as 2019, and kind of helped us prioritize inventory effectively. So the places that needed it the most, we had more visibility towards that. So definitely supported us there. Also in seeing, what was selling through well during these times. We have different trends in the market across, I think, all industries right now. So being able to see, what consumers are looking for, is a real advantage.
Very cool. One last question for you. What advice would you give someone in Europe thinking about using data?
advice. So the advice that I would give to companies thinking about using data, either brands or retailers, is really just to start talking about it. I think that, the transparency has increased dramatically over the last 5 years within the European marketplace. But it's still, it's still not all the way there. And it's so valuable for brands and retailers to come together around the data to be successful together. So I think the more that, brands, the more that retailers are talking about the use of data, the better it is for all of us to make more money out there and bring our brands to consumers.
Perfect. Thank you. Megan, we appreciate you sharing your experiences and sharing with us today. I'm looking forward to you being part of the Q&A as well. Now we're going to dive into a demo. My colleague Nicole Daly is here to show you SPS Commerce Analytics solution. Hi, Nicole.
Hey, how are you, Phil?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for having me today. As mentioned, my name is Nicole Daly. I've been part of the Retail Intelligence team here at SPS for the last 4 years. Prior to coming to SPS, I spent my career working in the retail industry on the supplier side, holding multiple sales and planning roles. I'm excited to use my experience to take you through a demonstration of the SPS Analytics tool and show you examples of how both suppliers and retailers can benefit from having shared point of sale data. Now, in general, more eyes on key metrics allow for shared accountability and create more possibilities to have mutually beneficial business discussions, internally and externally, as Megan alluded to a moment ago. Let's start with the internal benefits for a supplier or brand to look at the information. First, executive teams, they can get the snapshot insights and high-level views they rely on to make decisions. Your sales team needs visibility, right, to those top-selling products so that they can sell out more faster. Period. The merchandising team would definitely appreciate knowing the products that have the highest profitability so that they can consider repeating those items in future assortment offerings. For planning and supply chain teams, they can see low inventory positions by product or by store and can pose those that risk meeting sales forecasts or indicating a need for chase production. And don't forget about the marketing team. They never forgot about me on a Monday morning, always asking if the last promotional event was well received or if changes might be needed. Now imagine with me for a second if instead of these teams reaching out to that one person on your team, what if they just received this information automatically every week in a dashboard that could answer their questions quickly and easily? Would be kind of awesome, right? Now we talked about internal, let's consider external benefits. Retail data visibility as a brand supplier means you can take ownership of the analysis while your retail partners can concentrate on selling your products. Suppliers, you know your products better than the retailer does, right? You're the expert. So consider your next email or meeting. Is your expertise being backed up by data? If so, each time you communicate, you improve their confidence in your business relationship and get on your way to becoming a trusted partner. This can lead to increased sales, improved stock cover, and faster turns. Now in just a moment, I'm going to start sharing my video to give you, share my screen to give you a sneak peek into one of our dashboards. 2 more moments. I have a little slow Wi-Fi this morning. Okay. And let's set up that shared screen. Okay, now hopefully you guys can all see my screen at this point. Let's just do one more double check. All right. Now, in this dashboard, we're looking at high-level information. Now, this is just part of a suite of other dashboards that has been created by Retail Intelligence, leveraging our collective retail industry experience with our SPS customers' feedback. The business overview is meant to provide any user, regardless of their role, the quick details they need to be able to easily understand what happened in their business for last week. On the first tab of the dashboard, we are considering the grand total view. Users can adjust the filters along the side to narrow the scope of the data if needed. Next, we see a data scorecard with sales, margin, and inventory for last week, month to date, season to date, and year to date. In the graph to the right, we're looking at our sales by retailer. And below, we see the sales trend for the last 52 weeks. Finally, at the bottom left, we have a year-over-year comp store graph comparison. Now, we talked earlier about the need for all users to have quick and easy insights. You can see examples of this with the color coding on the scorecard to very easily indicate in green if we're up to last year or in red if we're down to last year. But what brings this dashboard to another level is the interactivity, which allows me to investigate further as needed. So for example, we can click on a retailer and see the rest of the dashboard update to reflect just that information. Another cool function here is easily highlighted when thinking about the role of a sales rep. Maybe that person only works with 1 or 2 retailers, and so this graph at the top right might not be helpful for them. I love this really quick and easy replace with function, and we can swap it out to maybe an attribute that's more beneficial to us, like gender. Moving on to the next tab of the dashboard, we can see the contribution of last week's sales in the ring graphs along the top. The same interactivity exists here too. So if I'm interested in finding out which retailers are driving sales, maybe for the, here we go, stability silhouette, I can quickly click and find out. Below the graphs, we see corresponding data grids, and these include multiple metrics. For easy and quick insights, consider simply the ranks at the front of this view. So for example, maybe there is a retailer that has jumped from second place to first place last week. Well, what happened, right? What needs to happen to adjust course to make sure that that retailer still performs at the level you expect? In the last tab of the dashboard, we're using an exception filter to view only the top sellers based on last week's sales. There's a graph and a grid for the top styles, and a graph and a grid for the top stores. This is a great quick view for the sales and merchandising teams to understand which are the top performers. And the planning team can quickly understand if any of these high-selling styles or stores have too little or too much inventory. For example, using our stock cover or weeks of supply metric, I can see that there is one style located here that is below our 8-week threshold. And scrolling across, I see that it's jumped from 11th place in the year to 3rd place for last week. So I might suggest this item as a reorder for my retailer. Now don't forget, right, you being able to see this data is powerful, but what makes it even better is to share it. Share this information by setting up a weekly email subscription to yourself or your internal teams, or you can export your dashboard in total or in part to your retailer partners, showing them that you have the knowledge to back up your expert advice. Now, let's test out some other real-life examples by engaging our more advanced functionality within this dashboard. To start, let's consider future planning. Megan alluded to it a little bit ago, talking about how 2020 definitely is an anomaly year. We can use one of our graphs here in the Business Overview tab, and if we duplicate this, or I should say, copy it to a new chapter, we'll see the graph nice and blown up for us. To get to the data behind it, let's do a couple more changes quickly to see that information. Perfect. I can rearrange or reorganize any of the attributes or metrics that I have listed here, but essentially this is my week-by-week sellout and inventory position. If I want to take it a step further, I can take this section of the dashboard and export it out to an Excel. Now, the next next example I have here is proactively understanding where and what inventory risks might exist. So let's go back to our top performers tab. We can look at all of our items. If I open up this exception filter, maybe to our top 100, we'll see the graph go a little wonky for a second, but that's okay. Now in this top item performance, if I blow it up, I can decide to reorganize this view. Maybe instead of having it ranked on sales, I can adjust my sort and instead have it be ranked based on inventory position. Now I can see where the highest amount of inventory is being held, and combined with my weeks of supply threshold, I can see where, like this one, I might have some opportunity. My last example here is to talk about the pandemic, right? We talked about how that shift of consumer activity is going from our in-stores to online. What if we take a copy now of our top stores grid? Instead of considering it by retailer, let's remove that. And also we'll remove the store name. Instead, let's take a grouping on store number and identify our e-commerce locations, store number 1 and store number 359 for my example today. And all of our other elements will be considered our brick and mortar locations. Let's see what we get. Nice. So now I can compare very succinctly what brick and mortar did versus what our e-commerce business did. Now, in general, the evolution of data sharing between retailer and supplier partners and the evolution of sharing data within supplier organizations is ongoing. But it's easy to see that when more data is shared, more insightful and more actionable conversations can occur. Now, that's it for me. I hope you've all enjoyed this example of what data analytics can do for you. I want to make a quick note that this is just a very small portion of what the features and functions are available in the tool today. If you have any questions or are interested in learning more, please definitely let us know. Now, to switch it up a little bit, we'd love to have you share with us what you find most helpful for your business. And we've got our poll up on the screen, looking at what part of data analytics is most valuable to you. As I kind of scroll down this list, I think most of those are probably my favorite. I'm very curious to see what the group decides. Nice, okay. Visualizing data for quick and easy analysis got 52% of our votes. Definitely agree with that. The more pictures, the better, especially depending on which people you're trying to put it in front of, right? Not everybody is an analyst. So having visualizations of this data can be super beneficial. Thanks everyone for participating in the poll. And now I'll turn it back over to Courtney. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you, Nicole. Every time I watch her present, I personally learn something new, and she and her team are such a great resource for suppliers learning to maximize sellout data. The insights this data can bring to light are pretty powerful. So next, to talk more about this, I'm delighted to have Matt Carter from Clarks joining me here. Matt, thank you for joining us today to talk about your business and your experience using data. And so we've worked together for a couple of years now, 2.5, I think it is. And I think we can agree Clarks is in the middle of your analytics journey when it comes to utilizing sellout data in your business. So can you share with us how this is impacting your business?
Yeah. Hi, Courtney. Hi, everyone. Like Courtney said, we've worked together for 2.5 years now. We're in the middle of building the amount of data that we have within our EMEA business. I think as any business should continue to drive forward the amount of data they have, and I think so. The fact that we're in the middle, I think we'll be in the middle for a while because we'll always be trying to strive for more. I think in terms of the value that SPS has provided to Clarks, it's been an amazing investment. We invested in SPS like I said, 2.5 years ago, we both started, I guess, with the European business at Clarks at the same time. So and we've kind of built the customer planning function within EMEA from nothing to where it is today. So it's added lots and lots of value, and to this day now, we're working with all functions within the business, not just within the region, from product to merchandising to sales to marketing, adding value in all areas, obviously at different times of the season, but it's been a really great journey so far.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're really partnering with your SPS team and really embracing this data throughout your organization. So anything else to add, just specifically around the partnership with SPS, the value you're seeing within the data itself, and just expanding on some of the points that you made?
Yeah. So I mentioned obviously, building the function with alongside SPS from the start. And we have a very transparent relationship. I will always be saying, like, we want to go after more data, and these are the customers we'd really love to get more data from. Can you help us? Or we'll work together. We have worked together to unlock even more data. But in terms of what we've used the data for, I have to give you a good example. I think before I joined Clarks and before we started using SPS within the region, the sellout information we had access to, but it was never in the same place. A lot of people within the business had an understanding of what was selling well and what wasn't selling well within the region, but it was never really communicated in one central way to the business, to marketing, to the product, and so it never really joined up in that sense. And what SPS helped us do as a business and as a region was to bring all of that data together in one consistent format, in one easily to read format, like Nicole showed you just before, and communicate the so what out to the business. So to give you an example, the assortment that we're trying to drive improvement in has taken a real step forward, and we've got a lot of people within the product teams now continuously referencing the data that we are communicating out to them, which is really great and really good, positive to see, and it just shows if you've got fact that are delivered to the business, to the right areas of the business, it can really drive great decision making and move the business forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that data-driven decisions and integrating data into every aspect of your business process can just be so impactful when it comes to managing the business with your retailers and internally.
Yeah.
So knowing again that this year's been different than anyone expected, I would just love to hear from Clark's perspective. How has access to sales data helped Clark's better navigate the twists and turns of this weird time?
Yeah, so I think everyone would agree that 2020 is a year to forget in a lot of ways. The data, it helps us as a business identify opportunity, but it also helps us mitigate risk. And I think 2020 has been a year that has produced more risk, as a business, and I'm sure a lot of businesses are in the same place. And what do I mean by mitigating risk? Well, obviously, as in a wholesale model, you're working a lot of the time, a year, 18 months, sometimes 2 years ahead of time. So, the impact that COVID has had in 2020 will obviously affect Clarks. It will affect all businesses into 2021. Hopefully not further on than that, but it will certainly impact 2021. Yeah. So, as a business, understanding what stock our customers are currently holding at any given time is incredibly valuable because it will help us, first of all, produce a more accurate forecast of what we need to be buying. If within the merchandising team, it will help our senior leaders understand what their expectations should be for 2021 in terms of future forward orders within our order book, and that way we're helping to mitigate risk within our region by managing those expectations and producing a more accurate forecast, so we don't buy too much stock than what's required within the region. And things like that are really helping us I guess weather the storm, and so obviously when everything gets back to normal, we'll be in a good position still to firstly be in business and do business in the market, but also have the right assortment still, still continuing to understand what's selling well and what sort of styles, what sort of features within our assortment are performing well, to build an assortment that's going to be more impactful to our consumers going forward. So both opportunity and risk has been helping us manage the year.
Those are great examples. And I think at SPS, we preach being proactive. I think a lot of brands are reacting to the data in front of them because they don't have it in an easy format. And it's cool to see that you're doing that and planning for future seasons. But also, I think right now with COVID, it's just that quick reaction, because that's all we can do in a time like this where there's so much unpredictability. So that's really great to hear. So I have one last question for you. I'm going to piggyback off the same question that Phil asked Megan, because I'd love to get your perspective on it as well. What advice would you have for companies in Europe that are considering using data?
Yeah, so I'm biased, of course. I've used data. I've been working with data in the whole of my career. So my first advice would be invest in data. But I think the key thing that I would add to that would be to making sure you have the right people to utilize it. I think obviously SPS one of the unique selling points of SPS is that you have these amazing dashboards, and you can some people can get to the insight really quickly and drive decision making. But for me, it's just making sure that you have the right people that can get to those insights and make those decisions, and get them connected with the data. That will essentially make the difference. So yeah, it's I mentioned before that for Clarks and EMEA, investing in SPS was a great decision. It's driven lots and lots of value for our business today, and will continue to do so. Yeah.
Well, I, for one, am really excited to see this partnership continue to evolve. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure our audience will have some questions for both Matt and Megan later, but in the meantime, Danny, can you take us into our Q&A? And also, didn't I hear something about prizes earlier?
Yes, absolutely. You are 100% right. Earlier, I hinted at the fact that we have these fantastic Bluetooth wireless headphones that are SPS branded as well. And while we were having those conversations, I took the time and wrote down every single person's name and put them in this nice little mixing bowl. And so I'm going to just do a little random drawing here to see who is going to win these Bluetooth headphones. First, we have Laura Palmer, which is super exciting. Very excited for you. And then next we have, just so I'm not cheating here, we have Daniel Brown. Congratulations to you two. Now, when you guys signed up for the webinar, you gave us your name, your email address, a bank PIN, maybe a couple security questions. So we'll be able to get these headphones to you, and our events team will follow up with you to be able to make sure that those headphones head over to you in a timely manner. But now it is time for the much anticipated live Q&A with the panelists. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A portion as we welcome the panelists all back on here. I know we have a couple that we're very excited to get started with. The first question that we have is from Donald, and he asks, what are the major advantages of SPS as opposed to our own internal reporting systems that deliver relatively the same data, but maybe just not in as pretty of a dashboard. Courtney, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I can definitely give you some insight into that one. I think really the difference with SPS is that we are a full service partner with this. So what a lot of suppliers really struggle with is all of that data management. So what happens when the data doesn't show up as expected? Or what if you receive the same file you received last week? Are you doing any data quality checks? Because this information is going to be utilized in decisions that drive your business. So it's important to have accurate, quality, timely data. So I think that data management component is a really critical piece that we completely offload from our clients. We're interfacing with these retailers. We're picking up the phone on the weekends when the file doesn't arrive as anticipated. And then kind of on the front end, the actual user interface, so we're not just about giving you dashboards, pretty dashboards. We want to teach you how to use them, help train your employees. How do they actually pull insights out of this data? When they have those insights, how do they package those up within their organization to actually drive change? So we really want to help end to end, everywhere from helping you go chase down new data from retailers where you don't get it, to making sure that your employees and users are really getting the most out of the service.
And to add on to that, Courtney, packaging it up, like you mentioned, is very important. Think about all the users across your organization. You know, not everybody is an analyst, and some people would really prefer to just see a nice, pretty picture to kind of let them know what sold the most last week, or, you know, how am I trending over the year? And that idea of having a package or maybe a pretty view to have and to coordinate allows you to have better adoption across your total organization. Having that standardized view and training users to expect the same sets of information allows them to read and digest that information much more quickly.
Awesome.
I would just I would just
go ahead,
add
Matt.
yeah, sorry. I would add one more thing, and that's just obviously from a Clarks point of view, SPS has been really, really helpful in actually getting the data in the first place. Sometimes, you know, not all customers you know, are willing to, you know, work with our IT teams to, you know, to get the connection set up, and it can be costly, it can be time consuming, and you know, so what we've done as a business is really kind of lent on SPS to really support us in getting data into us as a business. You know, so you know, if you have issues like that, then yeah, that's what we've done.
Awesome. Thank you, Every. So Dan is wondering, what are the key KPIs that customers request or use? Matt, I think I'll throw that to you first, as you're actually using the data, and then maybe Megan, you can jump in and see what you use as well.
Yeah, so for me, there were two key metrics. Well, three key metrics really. The first one is quite simple, and that's just volume. So obviously we work in pairs. So we would, you know, it seems obvious, but the more pairs a product has driven, the more successful it's going to be, the more we're going to be wanting to shout about that within the business. The next one is we call sell-through, which is essentially just how many pairs you know, a particular customer sold through from the original stock holding at the start of the season. And we'll talk about that a lot, because that shows in a very, very quick way opportunity and threat and a risk. You know, if it's a high sell-through number, then we know that's an opportunity to potentially talk to that customer and try and deliver more volume into them as a business, which they're going to appreciate. We're going to appreciate as well. And then just off the back of that, there's a metric that we use called stock cover. Some might call it weeks cover or whatever, but basically it will tell us on average across that customer, or even for a particular product, how many weeks, if they're continuing to sell out at the same rate over the last, let's say 8 weeks, how many weeks do they have before they run out of stock? So we will look at that to again identify both risk at a top line level, but also opportunity for a particular product, to identify in-stock opportunity, or to say to our product team, this is the sell-through of this or the stocks cover of this article is low, and so we don't recommend you continue producing this in the future assortments, stuff like that.
Absolutely agree with all of those. I can add on just a couple of things. One thing that I think is really interesting that the SPS dashboards give you that we get asked sometimes is, what am I missing out on? So is there something that's really working within a given city or country that is selling through really well that the retailer is not on from a product perspective? And it's pretty easy to see that when you have all of the different retailers together in SPS, obviously still keeping everything confidential, but it gives us some product cues for those regional differences, which can be really valuable to sales. There's also kind of not what customers request from us, but this is a really key thing for our sales teams to go into these retailers with during a seasonal buy, because sometimes you get excited about the next season and you kind of miss out on the things that have been driving those sales before the season before. And so it really gives our sales teams a tool to say, like, and did we mean to leave out this piece of business that was successful last year, or is that an oversight? And it really allows just a much more data-driven approach to the business, which tends to result in additional sales for both sides. Super valuable.
I think I'd probably add on to this piece, and also as a response to the first question, is when you start to think about KPIs, right, you're starting to think about this continuous, consistent management of the business as well. I mean, that's really a core part of this, bringing all this data that's frankly maybe disparate previous to this. Maybe you're getting retailer for some data from some retailers and not from others, bringing it all together in your language and being able to compare how your business performed last week, last season, last year, and really doing that analysis together and having a consistent, like, how healthy is my business across the board today? Not, I mean, really comparing, apples to apples as well is really a key part of using this data too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So our next question is from Norman. And Norman is asking, what about the sensible topic of sharing price information in Europe? How are the suppliers handling this topic? And any recommendations how to handle that topic? Courtney?
Yeah, I can comment on this one, and then if anyone else from the panel wants to chime in, feel free. So this is definitely one of those things that comes up a lot in this region specifically. Are we allowed to see price data? Are we allowed to see margin data? Or is that breaching EU antitrust laws and competition law? So the key with this, and this is based on research that we've done and also that we've hired a law firm in the UK to do on our behalf, actually analyzing and understanding those laws. It's not around access to those metrics. That's not in breach of the law. It's more around misuse of that information. So I do have some clients that have put in their own regulations on making sure that their teams are trained on the proper use of this information. And it's all around just making sure that you're not collaborating and setting prices behind the scenes. So the data can be shared. Many retailers do share it. Many suppliers do analyze it. It's all around how you use it and not misusing that information.
And picking up on the training thread there that Courtney just mentioned, that's another one of the things SPS offers as part of our kind of full service. I recently went through an exercise with a client in Europe where we decided that, they actually really wanted us to set up a certification program. So each of the users that is going to log in and look at SPS each and every week, they need to pass a series of questions, courses, real life examples, a combination of all, to be able to be granted access to that information. Now, I'm not recommending that everybody do that, but that is a course that we've seen work in the past.
Our next question comes from Matt. And Matt says, from the perspective of a sales manager, often we understand the value of data, particularly when it supports our point of view. Often, though, this can be a switch off due to time. It would be interesting to know what the panel thinks are the best ways to engage sales teams to use the data to drive in-stock and sales. Matt, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, so I think that's something that we've experienced at Clarks for sure. I think you know, the first thing that comes to mind with this is just making sure that the function that hasn't, I guess, has the data, has access to the data, and use the data enough, should be like a business partner to the different functions within the business, and sales obviously would be one of those functions. And the benefit of being like a business partner is you're taken on the journey that the sales team are going to be on to, right? And it should be part of the whole what we refer to as like concept to consumer life cycle. So the sales team should be aware of that as well. So so in terms of like, general like initial selling meetings for the season, like, the sales team and yourself and the people that work with the data the most should already be working very closely together. So both parties will understand what the opportunities are for that customer. And in terms of driving in stock, again, like, there's two things. One, for me as a customer planner, like I will be aware of what I believe are the opportunities for that customer. But those opportunities might, I will never know the detail as much as the salesperson for that customer, right? So again, it's like working closely with the sales team to make sure that the opportunities that you're communicating are actually opportunities in the context of that customer, not just, you're not just saying, oh, they should be buying more of this when the product is like, I don't know, a couple of seasons old and they're not wanting it anymore, that sort of thing. So I think the key thing is just working side by side, which I would say, and actually the final thing I would say on that, making sure, trying to encourage all the functions, not just sales, trying to encourage all the functions to like get access to the data themselves. I know that's again one of the benefits of SPS is that they have this online portal, and they have these dashboards that make it really simple and easy to get to the insights. And if people don't want to log in, I've experienced that as well. If people don't want to log into the portal, then you can set up what we refer to as subscriptions, which are just like Excel, reports that just ping out to whoever you want them to, and and then it will be an Excel document so that they don't have to log in as well. So there's lots of different ways of just delivering the insight that they will need to help drive in-stock sales, whatever you want to call it.
Kind of following on that, a lot of the time I get commentary that my teams would love to be spending more time in the data but don't have time, and that's the thing that you don't ever get to, which that's understandable. A lot of the individual sell-through reports, if you're getting them through from retailers, they all are different formats. It takes a lot of time to get into. But from my perspective, one of the biggest unlocks with this actually dashboard. Nicole very kindly said that not everyone's an analyst. I am not an analyst at all, and I love the subscription function that Matt called out. So I think I'm probably right there with you in this question, but you can essentially set up the view you want to see, get it at whatever cadence you want, and those dashboards are easy for a non-analyst to read. So I and my teams greatly appreciate that, and then rely on the more analytic side of the business to dig into the details, size level, store level. What is that telling us on future buys and all of that? So I really appreciate kind of the different levels of detail that you can provide. Weird, then it generally prompts a conversation, which is.
Back to the great comments from the customers here is, I think data starts with socialization, right? It's making sure everyone knows what's available and knows that this data is, within your four walls and can help you drive it. I think then with anything, when you're trying to make a change within an organization or start people thinking or working a little differently, it's kind of what's in it for them and helping to kind of show the value, partner well with them. Matt and Megan have done an excellent job with kind of creating this kind of center of excellence of understanding the potential of the product, but then working with other folks within the organization to understand what they need, what are they missing today, what would help them to be more efficient, to get more opportunity, to drive more revenue. And then really kind of customizing those views to that specific business unit and continue to measure and enhance those. I mean, that's really how you create this viral need to use the data, within your organizations as well.
Yeah, I think that Megan alluded to this, just having everything in one place, one format, one place to go. Um, Building towards that, I think, drives a hunger for the data because they've learned how to use this. They know how to click, how to filter, they know how to run a report, they know what they're looking for versus all of that data coming in different ways, the way that for many of you on this call, I'm sure, is what you're dealing with right now. Every retailer shares data in a different format. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to really draw insights from it. So I think that consistency also just drives towards a natural use of the system.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Looks like we have time for just one more question. Em just posted this one. She says, is there a KPI that SPS you frequently get asked by suppliers to include that doesn't exist yet, but is on the roadmap to include, or as a supplier that you wish you could have in SPS that you don't right now? Nicole, we'll start with you with this one.
Yeah, so one of the ones that I think, coming from my kind of supply chain background, one of the ones that I definitely wish that we have, and I believe it is on the roadmap coming up for next year, is going to be breaking up on order quantities. So today in our tool, on order units or dollar, the value of it comes through as a total bucket. So that quantity could be received next week, next month, 6 months from now, whatever that open production order is, or excuse me, sales order is. So I would love it if we can get to a place where we can see that on order quantity broken out, maybe by month or week, whatever that needs to be. And to be able to see, all right, how much inventory do I expect to hit stores, week by week? That would be my ideal. Megan, do you have any ideas as well?
Yes, but actually mine, I think, would be less of a KPI, but really around just more retailers being up and running. And that's something that we're actively working towards. And it's been, something that the SPS team has been really open to when we bring a retailer that's important to us that is not yet working with them, just trying to partner and get that visibility. So I think from a KPI side, maybe Matt, you have another view, but mine is really around retailers.
No, I would totally agree. The more I think I said in earlier on the call that the more data that you can get, the more value you can unlock. So yeah, I'm always talking to SPS and Courtney and trying to say like what other customers do you work with, like what other data can we get access to. I guess like in terms of metrics, one of the things that came to mind straight away was like promotional data. So like what volume is being driven by like a discount, or like a promotion, versus like full price sales. Like we get that for our own retailing, of course, but we don't have visibility of that yet for some of our wholesale customers. So getting that just again it unlocks another level of value for us because we can just see what's has a yes, a product might have done well, but like 90% of its sales might have come through promotions. So so having that visibility would definitely help as well.
One piece I've seen a lot of suppliers looking to add more is on the vein of this weeks of supply or stock cover type information, right? Is making sure that they're including the entry point of a product and the exit point of the product is super important because when you're recommending weeks of supply and additional stock, you don't want to be recommending stock for a product that you're trying to wind down or get out of season as well. So really when the sales team's using it, you really want that data to be super accurate, really focused on opportunity, and there's no question around whether they should use it or not as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists for this wonderful Q&A. Courtney, Matt, Megan, Nicole, and Phil, this was absolutely wonderful. And I hope everyone attending was able to really get something out of this. It was super helpful. So again, thank you so much. Now, as we wrap up here, there's a couple things that I want to mention before we head on our way. And the first is that we will be sending a survey out afterwards, and we'd love to hear your thoughts about SPS on Conversations. We want to know how much fun you had, how much you learned, how wonderful the panelists were, how funny the host was. Like any positive feedback would be lovely. And if you do fill out that, we will send you an SPS Yeti, a 20-ounce tumbler. This is not an off-brand. This is a real Yeti. I put water in it last night, and it was still cold this morning when I woke up and have been drinking my water this morning. So it's absolutely fantastic. So we want to know your thoughts, and we will reward you by taking a survey with a 20-ounce tumbler Yeti, which is just absolutely fantastic. So again, thanks so much for joining us. If you're interested in learning more about today's information, please reach out to Courtney. She would love to answer any more questions that you'd have. She'd love to work with you. She's absolutely wonderful, and we'll be able to help out with whatever questions you have. Again, thanks so much for joining us today. That is all that we have, and I will be signing off. I hope you have a great rest of your day.